Greetings, this is Tanaka Rani Chindomo representing Golden Cloud Network, and we're here to share knowledge and experience with you for the purpose of empowering the viewer, which is you, to make more informed decisions and to give you the knowledge on how to maneuver through the complex terrain of the world that we're living in today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to open a pharmacy in Zimbabwe, a 5-step process of how to achieve this objective. Step number 1 involves registering your pharmacy as a private limited company with the registrar of companies in Zimbabwe. Step number 2 involves applying for a shop license with your city or town council in the given area in which you intend to open your pharmacy in. Step number 3 involves registering with the Health Professions Authority, HPA. Step number 5 involves applying to the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe, known as MCAS. And finally, step number 5 involves registering with the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe. So let's get into these 5 steps. Let's give a little bit of details. Let's add flesh to the skeleton that we've just presented to you. Step number 1, registering your company. What is the objective? What are you trying to achieve? What do you have to come out of this process with? The goal of what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to gain from this process, is to get that certificate of incorporation. So the purpose of registering your company is to reserve your business name and preparing the necessary documents for this. And the necessary documents, one essential necessary document for this registration process is something that we call articles of association. You don't know what that is? That is something for you to dig into before you go on or carry on with this plan of opening a pharmacy in Zimbabwe. After you got that certificate of incorporation, after registering your pharmacy as a privately limited company, you then carry on and then you go and deal with the municipality. You deal with your city or town council. What do they want? Let's get into this. So the city or town council's job is to make sure that the premises in which you have registered your business in comply with land zoning laws, comply with safety regulations which are enforced by your city or town council. And once all these requirements are ticked, once you pass this compliance check, you will then be able to move on. Once your building regulations are in compliance with the city or town council, you can then move on. You are then given the green light to carry on, and then you're given a certificate by this city or town council which you can show to the other authorities that you have to deal with. For example, HPA. Let's get into HPA. The Health Professions Authority is a regulatory body which oversees all healthcare facilities in the country. This means that you have to register your pharmacy with the Health Professions Authority. And this process involves submitting a field application form and paying a required fee and undergoing an inspection of the premises in which you intend to operate in. Once approved, you will then receive an HPA registration certificate which has to be displayed in your pharmacy and which is a prerequisite for you to move on to other authorities. For example, MCAS. Let's go to MCAS, the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe. So a pharmacy involves dealing drugs, right? And drugs are very sensitive, especially their effects on people. That means that there has to be an oversight when it comes to trading drugs, and MCAS is responsible for administering this oversight. So MCAS exists to ensure the safety, effectiveness, and quality of the medicines used in Zimbabwe. So definitely you have to deal with MCAS. So you have to acquire a premises license from MCAS, which is granted after an application process. So the relevant application process, or the relevant application forms rather, are found on the MCAS official website. And after filling this form, which is popularly known as MC8, you might hear whispers of an MC8. This is the MCAS application form, which is key for you to get approved by MCAS. After filling and submitting this form along with your HPA certificate, MCAS will then follow up by conducting an inspection on the premises at which you want to open your pharmacy in. And what are they looking at? They're trying to see if your premises complies with some of their guidelines, which include guidelines on storage, guidelines on cleanliness, guidelines on accessibility, and more. And after this is done, if there are any issues raised during that inspection, you have 60 days to resolve them, or else your application process will then be revoked and you might have to start again, which is very inconvenient and time consuming and a waste of energy and resources. So after you pass by MCAS, you finally now have to deal with the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe. What do they want? To practice as a pharmacist, your pharmacy must be registered with the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe. Meaning, if you're not a pharmacist by profession, you might need to have to look for a pharmacist to join your team. Because without a pharmacist, without that stamp of approval from the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe, you won't be able to operate. So you go to the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe. What are they looking for? You have to submit, you have to show your qualifications of being a certified pharmacist. And once you have that, you submit those qualifications, they then do their assessment process. And if you then pass this assessment process, you'll then be given a practicing certificate, which you can then use to operate your pharmacy, which we then use to supervise a pharmacy. But what happens if your qualifications were not obtained in the country of Zimbabwe? That means that you will have to write an examination, which they call a forensic pharmacy examination, to make sure that as a pharmacist, you're familiar with some of the key elements of practicing pharmacy in Zimbabwe, which involves the knowledge of pharmacy or medicines laws in Zimbabwe, specifically what they call the Medicines and Allied Substances Act of Zimbabwe. So you have to write this exam, and when you pass this exam, that's when you then be given that practicing certificate. That's why the Pharmacist Council of Zimbabwe is relevant and important. Once done, you then pay the required fees to the council, and then you receive your practicing certificate, allowing you to legally operate and supervise a pharmacy. Yay! Round of applause. After completing this 5-step process, you will then be able to open and trade with your pharmacy freely. So these are the 5 steps that you need to take note of and comply with in order to open a pharmacy in Zimbabwe. Tips. This process involves a lot of regulatory authorities, so you might really have to be patient if you want to get this done. And you might have to plan your steps in advance to make sure that you don't have any hiccups in the way. So this concludes our presentation. Hopefully you gain 1 or 2 things. Like, share, and subscribe if you like what you see. Thank you.